Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It, our monthly podcast in which we discuss various aspects of online schooling. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mary, and I'm from Education Worldwide. And you see me practically every month hosting this podcast and bringing guests with whom I discuss, as I said, various questions and interesting topics that are concerning online schooling. With me tonight is my co-host Anita. Anita, welcome.
Thank you, Mary.
How are
Welcome, Mary.
you? Yeah, thank you. It's nice to finally somebody wishes me welcome as well.
I think I wish you a welcome every podcast, but
Yeah, are you?
I do.
Oh, okay. How are you?
I'm good. A little bit
Excellent.
tired, but I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, this January
Crazy.
is crazy month,
Crazy.
right? So many people just start January slowly, but for us, it's like full steam.
Yeah. Which is good. It's a good start to the year. So let's hope it continues like
Yeah,
this.
of course.
Yeah.
Excellent. And we have an interesting topic tonight. It's student diversity.
Mhm.
And we have the topic because on our last podcast, I have said, oh, what a diversity too many times. So my wish came true. And now I'm talking
Be careful what you wish for.
I was referring to the comment section because, as you all know, we're an international online school and we have students from all around the world. But who will be talking about the student diversity? We have the right person for that, and that's our online tutor, Bianca. Bianca, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. How are you, Mary?
I'm excellent. We haven't
See,
seen each
now
other.
you have two how are yous.
Yeah.
Now I have two. How are you? Yeah, I should.
Only because you asked for it.
I should count on it. Thank you for joining us on this podcast, and I'm pretty sure you will have a lot of things to say regarding our topic. But the first thing that I usually do is asking all my guests, like, what are your favorite benefits of online schooling in general? Imagine that you are a student and that you're not a teacher, you're a student, you're going to online school. What is one thing or two, three things, whatever, that you would like the most in your online school?
Well, definitely time management because when I was going to elementary and high school, I had a lot of other things. So I played piano and etc. I don't want to talk much about myself, but I didn't really have time to focus on any of those things because I went to a regular school. But kids that go to our school have a lot of time for all those other activities, maybe sports, some instruments, maybe acting, or whatever they would like to pursue in their life. So I think that's the biggest benefit that, for me at least.
Okay, and would you mind telling us something more about yourself? Like, what kind of classes do you held at Education Worldwide and stuff like that? So just that people who are watching can get a sense of who you are.
Of course. So, like Mary said, my name is Bianca, and I mostly hold individual one-on-one sessions with my students where we talk about basically any subject that they have trouble with. It can be math, it can be language arts, social studies. So anything that they have questions and problems with, they can talk to me and we can work on those
Great. So you
subjects,
really
right?
have the opportunity to meet them in person and like organize your style of teaching to their needs.
Of course. It's the best way to see if they have trouble in any subjects. For example, I know a lot of students have trouble with math, so mostly I do math with my students. So it's really good that we can individualize those classes and work on their specific problems and needs. Sometimes I've noticed with some students that language can be the barrier, even with subjects like math. So I always try to find some videos that are in their language. For example, today I had a class with a student who is from Spain. So I found a video in Spanish and we talked about it in Spanish and in English. So we
Wow.
kind of mix everything together.
That's
So
great.
That's diverse.
Yeah, that's diverse. Anita, may I ask you what subjects were your least favorite subjects while you were in school? I just switched the topic.
Actually, in elementary school, I liked math, and then when I got to high school, didn't really like it. But
So
that's
math.
because I don't know. I think we were kind of forced to have those like set classes at set times, and it's like, okay, I don't really feel like doing math today, but I have a double period of math, and it's a little bit
Yeah.
stressful.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, math was my like.
But I didn't have Bianca as a teacher. I think that
Maybe
would have
that
been
was the
different.
problem. Yeah, definitely. I'm sorry. Wow, we have a lot of viewers here. So I would like to invite you all to ask any questions in the comment sections. If you have any questions, doesn't have to be about student diversity. It can be about online schooling as well. Bianca, Anita, and I will answer them. And of course, please like this podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share this podcast or any other if you think that somebody might find it interesting. And of course, stay with us throughout the show. So, student diversity. Bianca, when I say a student diversity, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Like your own opinion, you don't have to rely on regular meanings.
There's
Well-
no right or wrong answer.
Well, in our school, that means a lot of different things. For example, first of all, we are an international school, so we have students from all over the world. So we're diverse in that way. We're also very diverse in religious sense. So our students are have different religions, and that's something that we actually really care about. For example, one of my students will celebrate Ramadan in 2 months, and I know that it can be a bit difficult for her to study during that period because of the way that it works and that they don't eat until 6. So I will be adjusting my classes to her needs. Maybe we will put a little break for her so that she can, focus on her celebration, on her holiday. So a lot of different things, and also something that for me is the most important, because a lot of schools are diverse nowadays. Well, I would say that we're more diverse than many schools,
Okay.
but not enough schools are diverse in socio-economical sense. So because of our tuition fees, which are not that high, we have a lot of students who are maybe from families that have low income and from some families that have higher income. And also that price is different for, in every country, it means a different thing. So maybe for someone from America, it's not that expensive, but maybe from someone from Africa, it is. So we're diverse in that sense as well. And also they have many different backgrounds, also academical backgrounds. So we have students that were here with us from the beginning, and we have some students that came from other schools that maybe had better or lower grades, and we're diverse in that sense as well, and we cater to all of their needs. So if, for example, I get a student who wasn't that good in his academic progress in his previous school, I know what I can focus on and how I can help him. So yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Since Anita is our consultant and is dealing with parents and students on a daily basis, you have spoke with parents from, as Bianca said, literally all over the world. I think that we recently started enrolling even students from Australia, and Australia was the only continent that was missing on our list of places.
I think I've brought them into
Yeah.
the picture as well.
This is the place you're coming from as well. Do you have maybe regarding diversity? Do parents ask about the diversity, how diverse we are?
They do. They always ask, we don't give out any personal data or information for obvious reasons. We like to, keep things private. But I do get a lot of questions like, whereabouts are our students from? And I do say, and it sounds like a cliche, they are from all over the world.
That's
have
why we are
students worldwide. Exactly. I also have a lot of questions about learning styles, and I think, Bianca, you would have seen that in your classes as well, where diversity in the sense where different students learn in different ways. So some may be very hands-on, like need to write things down and that's how they understand. Other students might be like audio learners or oral learners, visual, like it depends on the student. And we do get those questions all the time, like, okay, so for example, my child isn't the best at writing or like putting things into words in writing. We have options where I know with some students, and I've spoken to some of the tutors, where rather than having them write down the answer, they can do like a recording and respond like an oral presentation, in which we would still grade it accordingly. And I mean, we wouldn't subject them just to writing it down, but also finding a way that works for them and helping them get the best grades possible. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Bianca, would you mind telling us about this cultural diversity? You don't do group classes, so you probably have never mixed, students from different countries. But can you tell me how challenging is for a teacher to adjust their style for students who are coming from different cultural backgrounds? Maybe is it challenging?
Well, for me personally, it isn't because after a couple of classes, me and my students really, make good contact, so they can tell me about anything basically, and they do teach me a lot about their own cultures, about where they're coming from. So it's really enjoyable to learn about all of those things, which is, I think, very beneficial for all of the teachers, not just teachers in our schools, but we do learn a lot in our job as well from them. So I don't think that it's difficult. Sometimes it can be if they don't really speak English that well, but that's just something that we need to focus on as teachers, and also parents need to be there and help their children. But that's the only thing that might be a bit tricky. So if they have some problems with English, so well, that's basically it. But I would just like to say something that Anita talked about. So about writing and audio recording. So we do have some students with dyslexia. So we also cater to those needs. So if they have trouble writing and reading, they are always allowed to record the audio, so the answers to their questions. So, well, we try to help them out, and so they can put it into words, write it down. But yes, we really take care of those needs as well.
Well, that's great. What's students' reaction when they see that you have such a nice approach, practically friendly? You're a friend at the during the class and not just a teacher or the authority.
Well, they're a bit surprised, honestly. I had some students that didn't really want to talk in our first classes because they were very worried that they will disappoint me in some way. Yes, I also got some emails about things like that, and what they need to realize that there is no way for them to disappoint me. So after a couple of classes, they start talking when they realize that it's a safe environment. So no one is judging you. No one is there to give you bad grades or anything. We're here to help you. We're here to, help you learn and be a great student, maybe have a great career after that, go to great university. But they are surprised. They don't expect that. And I know that a lot of my students had bad experiences in their previous schools because their teachers didn't really care about their individual needs. I'm not saying that they are bad tutors. It's just too difficult when you have a class with 30, 40, 25, how many students. And here it's way easier for us in a way, especially in one-on-one classes, to connect to our students and to show them that we do care about them. And well, yeah.
Well, we do care about them. And Anita also mentioned it a couple of times, and pretty much every tutor that comes in here, that's something that we are really proud of that connection that we make with students and how we deal with them on classes. And of course, as confirmation of all of that comes all the compliments that our teachers get, not only from students, but from their parents as well. Like when you read an email that says that a student didn't like a certain subject and now can't wait for the next online class, I think it's just one of the biggest rewards that a tutor can get. Anita, do you have maybe something to add on what Bianca just said, or do you have any question for her?
Yes. I'm not going to bombard her with questions yet, but I do want to add definitely about like the learning disabilities, not just learning disabilities. We have a lot of students with like other disabilities or medical conditions, in the sense where we don't like we're diverse in that sense, where it's not just like, you know, we kind of separate them or whatnot. They're all together in the classes, and we have students that of course have other like medical or learning disabilities, where they're in a group class and all the other students like are there supporting them, and there's that open discussion, and they're all just friends, and it's really nice to see.
Well, you are actually doing some group classes, so you have that feedback from students when
Yes.
you mix students from
Yes, and
different countries
yeah.
and their experiences. Like, how's that like?
that's really funny in a good way, because we'll have like, for example, a class of 8 and say 2 are from, let's say, Dubai, someone is from another country, and it's like, oh, you're from Dubai, I'm from Dubai as well, I'm from Israel, and I'm from Spain, and I'm from France, and all of this, and it's like, well, I've been here and here, and okay, let's not sidetrack. We can talk about travel, where everyone's from after.
So it's geography class all the time.
Literally, for a math class.
Well, that's not bad.
It's not, because I don't like math, but you know, I'm always happy to sidetrack.
Understandable. Great.
But yeah, it's really nice to see all these different like students from different parts of the world coming together, you know, and as diverse as it is, it all comes down to one thing: we're all people, they're all students, and we're all the same, and
course.
they're all here for the same thing, just to get an education. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also have to add that regarding that tutor relationship with parents and students, Millie was here in our last podcast, and after the podcast she had a class. Actually, it wasn't a class, actually it was during the break. I think that a student and her father took her on a tour in a park. I think it was Vietnam. I'm not quite sure. Maybe Millie can come again and talk about. So, you know, like, this online learning doesn't really have to be bad, because now it's totally normal that a parent turns the camera on their phone and
it's like a virtual tour.
Take a tutor on a tour through their national park or something like that. So it was really enjoyable. That's also one of the great things about having kids in different countries.
Exactly.
Okay, let's go back to Bianca, like, since she's our guest. Okay, Bianca, you mentioned a lot of types of diversity, and I have focused in the previous question only on cultural one. Can you please elaborate on what you have been answering in the first question regarding other aspects of diversity in our online school? Like, how do you see it, and how do you see it help students, and on the other side help tutors learn something more, especially tutors who are working in an environment such as education worldwide?
So diversity and inclusion in general is something that is so important, and that really helps students, you know, fight discrimination, stereotypes. I would like to think of us as you know, the living proof of all parts contact hypothesis. So they're there for one same goal. They're helping each other out. They're in contact with other groups of people. They're not divided between themselves. And it's really good for fighting the stigma around different religions, cultures, anything that you know, is happening in the world still, unfortunately. So I feel like that's really important for us as well, even though we don't have prejudice against other groups of people. There's always something that we can learn about different countries, something that we don't know yet, and that's how they really help us. So some of my students really like to talk about their countries, about their cultures. So I really did learn a lot from them. And I know that diversity is something that is really important for them as well. Because a couple of weeks ago, even before there was talk about this podcast, one of my students said to me, it is so amazing that this school is so diverse. I've never met so many people from different parts of the world, and they all accept me. Even though, yes,
That's
even though whenever she went, you know, online, there were some comments about, you know, where she comes from, her religion, etc. Here in this school, she feels safe and she feels accepted, which is something that is really important to me as well as a tutor.
And it warms your heart. I mean,
Yes.
knowing that your student feels safe with on the class, whether it's on individual or group. And I know one thing for a fact, and that is that student oftentimes think of you as a friend, and then they don't mind sharing their secrets with you, even if the secret is like how they cheated on a test or something. Can you give us an example, of course, without mentioning names or stuff, so like some interesting story about it?
Oh, well, yes. In one of my first classes with one of my students, he actually showed me how he cheated on the test. He showed me the way to do it.
Honest, which is good.
He was very honest. I told him that that was great, but I will have to correct his grade, and if he wants to retake it, now he won't be able to cheat. But it is quite difficult to cheat on our tests because we can see when they copy paste things. We can see it. I'm not gonna tell you how we can see it because maybe they'll find a way to change it. But yes, they tell me things like that. And well, he did that twice. And when I told him the second time that I've noticed it and that, well, I will have to fail that quiz, then he stopped doing that.
Okay,
so that was great.
It worked.
It worked.
When you told them. But I find it really funny. You know, imagine us in a school telling a teacher, "Hey, I cheated." Like, you're trying to hide. You were never that good with a tutor or a teacher to just tell them such secrets. But that's
But
great.
I think that's the difference. Like with when our students enroll and when they meet their assigned tutor, they have that first. It's not an initial class. It's like, let's book a 30-minute meeting or whatever, 15, 45, whatever they want, just to meet each other and get comfortable. And then I think that makes a really big difference in that sense, that relationship, I guess, where they can feel comfortable enough to be open with you. And like even if they understand something or if they don't understand something, they're not afraid. And it kind of, like Bianca said, it gives them that like safe environment where when a student feels safe, they feel, I guess, motivated as well to do all this, like catching up on work or, you know, going a few lessons in front or something like that. It's a good thing to see, just that positive relationship they have with the tutors. So diversity.
Great job, tutors and teachers
And students
and
as well.
students, of course,
And Mary.
consultants.
And Mary. And
Okay, I'm just along the ride, just facilitating this conversation. Okay, great. And I just lost the question that I that I wanted to
That's
ask.
because I interrupted you.
I would-
Sorry.
No. That's entirely okay. But you see, if I were a tutor or a teacher, I guarantee you, in the middle of the class, I would totally forget what I was talking about, and it would be total failure, disaster. No, I wanted to ask, like, how did you ever had like parent coming back after the class or just contact you after the class and expressing any feeling regarding the class, like saying that their child was like satisfied or stuff like that? Does that happen often?
It does, especially with younger students, because sometimes parents sit, with their kids when we have classes when they're younger, so they can help them navigate. But they're pretty great at technology nowadays. So, but yes, they did email me. I had some that scheduled consultations where I was kind of nervous if there was something bad, yeah. But they just came to, say thank you, and they were really grateful for our patients, not just mine, but for all of our tutors' patients, and they're really satisfied. As far as I know, especially the ones that I work with, that I can talk about. But yes, that did happen. Quite a bit did happen today, yesterday. So almost every day our tutors get something, a feedback from our parents, and we welcome any feedback. So if they have some negative feedback, that's also okay, because we're there to adjust our teaching style, and we're there to help their kids be better. We're not there just to teach a lesson and finish it, and that's it. We don't care what happens next. We're there to really help them. So if a parent thought that something, might have been a bit better, I wouldn't mind them, sending me some feedback like that as well. I would appreciated, so that I can be a better tutor as well,
Of
and that
course.
I can be better with them together. And because of that approach, that that we can change our approach depending on the student, our students do get better. Not just better in the sense of that their grades are better. They really do learn. It's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, in regular schools. If you see that some kid is struggling, maybe you'll try and help him out a bit, but later on you'll decide not to, and you'll focus on those who are already good at a subject, for example, math. And then other students who have trouble with math, they'll be even worse and worse at math. So here we don't start with that initial, opinion or reaction. Oh, the student is bad at math. We're always there just to help them. We're there to guide them. We don't have any prejudice against them. We know how it was when we went to school. So we're here to fix some mistakes that
Yeah, of course.
that happened back then.
Way back when.
Way
Not
back
just
then.
back
Yeah.
then. I mean, that's the unfortunately that's the reality even now. I mean, how many students do we get and hear a lot different stories? I mean, stories that you wouldn't believe you would hear in the 21st century that happen in the school, but unfortunately they're happening, and they're happening in all countries. I don't talk just about countries who are like poor countries, or have lower educational systems, or something like that. These things happen in countries that are like really good in any sense, economical or political, or stuff like that. So my next question is for Anita. Did you ever had like a complaint from a parent directly who said that they're directly enrolling a child into an online school to avoid some inconvenience that happened to them in traditional schools,
previous
such
schools.
as bullying or
All the time.
something like that?
All the time. It's either to do with bullying or with just the way that the school works. I mean, nothing against how they work, but it's not suitable for their needs. They probably are just not happy with the way that classes are set out, or they just want more of that one-on-one time, or they just a different learning style, basically. So we get that a lot. I also want to mention as well the different like financial situations, and I think that's where we are very diverse, where like Bianca said, students and families from like higher like economic backgrounds and lower and whatnot, we don't discriminate on any level. We actually as a school provide even that financial aid if
for
need
sure,
be.
yeah.
So we have literally students from all over the world, from all different types of backgrounds and economic statuses and whatnot. I don't even want to say economic status because it's not nice to label, but
And I'm
Yeah.
sorry to jump in, but on the other side also, in a school, in an online school, you're behind the screen, like nobody really knows what kind of computer you
Exactly,
have. Is it
exactly.
good? Is it bad? As long as you can hear the class, they're
Exactly.
all equal in that sense as well. And especially in group classes, I think it's maybe important because
Exactly.
students don't really get to feel the difference
Exactly.
between them and the person on the other side. So it's really
It's
good.
good in the sense that they kind of all start fresh. And even if they, for example, are not the best in, I'm not even going to say math anymore, science
We
or
mentioned
something like
that
that.
many times.
Science is not a strong point or something like that. Of course, we don't say from the first hand, okay, so these are your weaknesses. We're going to work on that. It's start fresh. So they come into the class and it's like, okay, let's do this lesson. And then from there we can see, and then we just discuss, not we, they, the tutors discuss basically like different ways to go about just absorbing that information and different learning styles, just so that they can feel comfortable enough and want to be motivated and do better, and not feel scared to log on and say, okay, now I have to do a science class or an English class or a history or a math.
Yeah,
So
of course.
yeah.
And the reason why I mentioned bullying is because Education Worldwide is preparing a campaign against bullying. And I just mentioned it, but I'm not going into details. We will have another guest on our podcast who will talk about it, and we will tackle that topic differently. But I would like to ask ask Bianca, like, how did you have like anything that you can mention? I'm sorry, I didn't think I was asking you for the parents, but I didn't ask you for students. Like, did they ever come and like open up to you saying about some harsh moments that they have? Like, what are some comments that you received from students, and maybe if it's not too personal, and if it's not too, if you don't open, if you don't reveal their name and anything, to say how did you solve, or how did you try to help them with that particular problem?
So yes, like Anita mentioned, there were a lot of cases of bullying in their previous schools, and students do open up, but after a couple of group classes, when they actually see that that's not happening here, and then they tell me, in my previous school I was bullied, but here everyone accepts me. So they start with a positive note, like, here that's not happening, but that did happen to me. I do ask them if it's not too personal to share, if they would like to, and also if they want to have, a consultation out of that classroom time, if that's something difficult that they would like to talk about. So yes, they talked about that a lot, not just bullying from other students, but from teachers, from schools in general, which is horrifying. Bullying from other students is something that we're used to, unfortunately. It's not something that is acceptable, but bullying from a teacher.
Yeah. I've heard that as well in consultations.
Really? Sure.
Yeah.
It's common. It's really common.
It's
yeah.
no comment.
Okay, so we are now going into some topics that are really, really serious, and I'm really glad that we have teaching support and teachers who are understanding and who are not like involved in anything similar. It's really a safe place, as we have said numerous times here in this podcast. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. But of course, that's not something that we do. It's not acceptable in any way. And I think all teachers around the world should know that, because we are grown-ups. We're supposed to know that. We're supposed to guide the kids that we teach. We're not supposed to teach them bad habits like that. Well, not bad habits, bad behaviors like that. So that's something that I'm really proud of, that our school is a lot different in many ways, especially in this one, especially for, teenagers, because that's a sensitive period as it is. And when you're getting bullied in your school, I'm sure it's pretty hard to bear. And it's not something that we would ever accept in our school. And I think that our students are, open, and they would tell us if they had any issues. So they do talk to us about a lot of different things, and they do tell us that this doesn't happen. So if they did have any issues, they would tell us. But for, I didn't really have any experience like that with my students here. So, mostly bullying. That's the problem that they're telling me about. They sometimes have some troubles out of school as well with bullying, so where they live. So they do talk about that as well. We can always stay longer in a class and talk to our students if they have any trouble. So we're always there for them, whatever happens. Even though we're on another side of the planet, behind the screen, we're really there for them.
That's really great. Anita, I wanted to ask, like Bianca, I'm sorry, and just talk about like how students react, like they open up to teachers and stuff like that. What's the deal with group classes? Did you have maybe like, but now I'm switching to positive experiences and to diversity, like on group classes, like did you have like some interesting story that maybe you can share, like the two people from different countries reacted in a positive way, like, or maybe that's reserved for the time when students stay after the class,
Well,
like
I think,
chatting between them and stuff like that.
from what I've seen when I did hold those group classes, like I mentioned before, like they would say where they're from, and sometimes they like talk about where they've been like at the same time. Well, not at the same time, like the same places or something like that. I've had this is going back, I think, when it was like summer, and one student was like, "Oh yeah, we were in I don't know, I think Turkey or something like for the summer," and then another one was like, "So are we?" Like, "Oh, we were probably there at the same time," and it's really sweet. And they live on literally different sides of the world. But it's nice to see. It's like, okay, in this like online school where you have a student from, say, like the Asia Pacific and a student from Europe or like the Middle East, and then they're at the same time like at the same school traveling to like one destination, and then they have like that thing in common, and then that kind of forms those like little friendship groups and all of that. So then they do stay back after some classes, and then I mean, I don't know, like I change the host and then they stay back and play and talk or whatever. So I don't know what goes on there, but they're always like looking forward to that. Like, okay, when's the lesson over? I'm like, okay, just let's get through this, and then you can talk about your travels and what you saw. And
you see how the school has changed. We had like a bell that announced the end of the class, and now you don't really have a bell, but you have a Zoom meeting that
you have a click
that is going to expire. But students are actually looking forward to the end of the class, because that means like, hey, now we're going to stay in this.
And it's funny because it's like, I don't know, like if the same is with you girls, but when I was in school, I couldn't wait for the bell to ring so I could go home. But now it's like they want to stay back and they want to be longer in school, and it's like, okay, we have to end it. Oh no, why? Like,
yeah, I know that sometimes our classes can be super interested because we can hear some classes in the office, and you're like, I want to jump in. This looks like a nice conversation. And I'm going to ask Bianca the same, but since I'm talking with you, I will ask you first. Like, how do you think that being educated in such an international environment, being aware of different cultures, races, different in general, people from all around the world, how do you think it affects these children? Like,
I think it's extremely important because we are in the 21st century and we have so many people from all over the world, and we've mentioned this in previous podcasts that everything has transitioned online, everything from work. So in the future, when they do decide, to get a job, it could be something online as well, and they will be exposed to different races, different backgrounds, just different people in general. It doesn't have to be anything to do with culture or religion or anything like that, but just the way people are. And it's very important for our students to accept that people are different. We have all different types of people, and we just need to make sure that we all realize that common ground, why we're all here. We're all here for the same thing, and we're all here to get along, and it's extremely important.
But
for
it's
them
important even if they go to if they proceed to higher education somewhere outside their home country. It will be easier for them,
and it's not going to be a shock.
Of course.
So it's not going to be like, well, I wasn't exposed to different types of people, and again, nothing to do with cultural backgrounds or anything like that, but just different people. Like you and I are different, you know. And if we were in like a very small-minded like headspace, I'd be like, well, I don't like Mary because she doesn't agree with me on this. Whereas it's different like that. We learn to accept different types of people from different parts of the world, but you realize that they're all the same, and it's very important for students to realize that from a very young age. I guess for them to mature younger as well.
Of course. I like that we are kind of bringing back that important matter into the educational part, because I do believe that in traditional schooling it's getting lost, because one of the main problems in traditional schooling is bullying, and of course other forms of different kinds of maltreatment and anything else. Bianca, the same question goes for you. Like, what do you think from the tutor side is the benefit of learning in such intercultural environments such as education worldwide?
So this is going to sound like a prepared answer, but definitely a better world for all of us, because we're teaching them not to discriminate anyone. We're teaching them to remove that stigma that Sometimes our parents share with us that they don't even know it. Sometimes our country shares with us. And when they're exposed to different cultures, different ethnicities, different people in general, like Anita said, they're not that prone to, bullying other people that are different from them, and they're not that prone to discriminating other people as well. And yes, I think that lowering that discrimination that still exists in 21st century is something that is most important when we're talking about diversity.
Well, that's great. I'm glad that we can agree that we make a world a better place, right?
I like to think so.
Let's think about
One step at a time.
it. One step at a time, of course. Anything else you want to add on this topic?
Yeah, I have so many things. My mind just froze. Yes, like Anita said, so when we went to our regular schools, so you maybe lived in one district and you were only going to that school with kids from your district. You would go to same school, maybe same cafes, McDonald's, whatever. You're going to same places as them, and you have almost the same lives as them. But here, they all have different hobbies. They have different interests. They're talented at different things, and that's all important for kids to be exposed to see how the world is different from them, and then they're ready for university, like Anita said, or maybe they can move abroad, or start their careers wherever they want. So
and also that diversity, we have to find a synonym for that word. I can't kind of come up with a word right now, but never mind. I think that it also affects, like, it influences students in terms it maybe can motivate them. As you said, maybe one student has one hobby and inspires other student to start something similar, even if it's not common in their culture or with their friends out of the school and stuff like that. So I think
of course.
I think as well it's a good thing for them to see, like, if they have this routine and they're kind of scared to break away from it, and because they're not exposed to like something different, and then they have this friend or this class peer, and they say, for example, like, oh well, I like to play the guitar or the keyboard or whatever, anything, like something different, like any hobby, I guess. And they just maybe want to turn around and say, well, I've always wanted to do that as well. And then they kind of build up this courage, and, it becomes like they turn it into reality, like breaking away from that routine. So I think it's a good thing for them to be exposed to diversities. Just to kind of give them that confidence as well. And again, I want to touch base on the safe environment where they can feel that they can say, well, I want to do this. Like, I want to try something different. So it's good. It's good that we have a worldwide
community.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they can learn from those other students. So, for example, if you wanted to play guitar, like you said, and you never met anyone who does that, maybe that other student can help you. They can meet, in Zoom and help each other out. So they can be their own little tutors, teachers. So that's also great.
Study buddies.
Study buddies.
Let's remember Tammy and study buddy from the first podcast ever. That's actually really, really, really nice reference, because in our first podcast that happened in December 2020, we spoke about starting doing group online classes because we wanted to work on the social aspect of our students. And now that we see that even that social aspect through group classes has so much impact on them, I also want to say that Education Worldwide is working on some novelties, such as forums and clubs, extracurricular classes and stuff like that. So if you're a parent watching us right now, just pay close attention. We will notify you via emails, newsletters, but also all these informations will be on our website, I hope soon. Okay, Bianca, any last words, for this podcast, or did we forget to mention something? It is one of the serious episodes in terms of topics that we have covered, but maybe.
Oh, well, let's see. There are many more things that we can talk about for sure, but I really do think that this is an important topic, like you said, and I really do hope that some other schools implement these things that we already have in our schools, and that they do see the benefits. It's not just us that we can see results. There's a lot of scientific research about this topic that, proves it to be right too. It's better if the school is not as homogenous as most of physical schools are. So I hope that other schools do start working on that a bit more.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's not about the competition. It's about really creating a system of schools and education institutions worldwide that can help students deal with some problems that are now like frustrating.
Exactly.
Anita, any last words from you? Anything you want to say?
I think I interrupted enough and said what I had to
Oh,
say.
I think I have something else to say.
Oh, you have more.
No, I
Okay,
have
that's
more.
great.
When you were talking about competition, it just came to my mind. Yes, there's some healthy competition that we do have in our school, let's say. So we sometimes make some debates. So whenever we have a class where we see that students don't agree with each other, they have different opinions on different topics, sometimes we allow them 5 minutes so they can think of
Arguments.
their own arguments, and that's a good way for them to learn proper conduct in a discussion as well. And sometimes some of them change their minds when they see good arguments against their topic. So that's also what's very beneficial. So diversity in the way of thinking as well.
Oh, I have
Keeps
to
them
tell you.
open-minded, I
Yes,
guess.
of course,
which
but
is
I have to tell you, I would like school much more if it were like this when I was going to school.
Well, you can always enroll as a learning for
this-
adults.
in this age. Adult learn. Okay, I have my high school diploma. Okay, I think that is it. We didn't have any questions, but if you were shy and didn't want to ask questions here, you have our email address in the description of this podcast. But please like, share. Oh, we have it's Hiram. Hi, Hiram.
Hi,
We were
Hiram.
wondering where you are the entire podcast, like
Hiding from us.
Okay, so I will read. Like Hiram says, "Hello, looking forward to those news on 4 extracurricular activities classes, and thanks for another podcast." Best, Hiram. Thank you, and I'm waving to you. I'm not signing off this show. Thank you for watching every podcast. The entire Education Worldwide team really appreciates your support, not just on the podcast but on social media as well. And
I think we should get Hiram in one day for a podcast.
Absolutely, we were talking about it. We have to find a way of course, if you would like, of including you in the podcast, because I think that you would have a lot to say on very different topics, and not just regarding online schooling. But let's discuss that through a phone call or or a meeting or something like that. Okay, so I was I was speaking to the audience, and that's what I was talking about. I'm switching. I'm losing focus so easily. So if you have any questions, there is an email in the description of this podcast, and you can always ask or book a consultation with Anita or with any other consultant from our school. They can explain any matter. And if you are a parent of a student who's already enrolled and you have a question, you already have your assigned tutors and your assigned consultants. So feel free to write to them for any matter. And if there are no more questions, I would like to thank you all for listening to this podcast. And as I mentioned before, like, share this with someone who might find it interesting. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. There will be more topics, as you heard. If you didn't watch any of our previous podcasts, feel free to do so. They're really interesting. You will even find out some things about our online school that you maybe didn't catch during the consultation or stuff like that. So they're really useful. And of course, even if you have a comment regarding student diversity or anything that we talked about tonight, you can always write to us in an email. We would love to hear your opinion. So once again, thank you for watching us, and see you next month. Bye.